Memories can very easily cloud our outlook on life. We may not remember something the same way we once did, and revisiting something from that memory can give us the impression of a false prophet, something we thought to be much better in theory than how it truly is in practice. Many people have criticized my outlook on the Galaxy Note 3 for this reason. It's a legacy Samsung phone, meaning people have viciously debated my conclusion that it can still hold up and be a daily driver despite its age. But the last time this was my daily driver was July of 2016, and now a full contract cycle later, can this device still hold up, half a decade after its release? Find out in this 2018 review of the Samsung Galaxy Note 3. Let's start off with the design, because this is one of the most polarizing areas of the Note 3. Starting off with a fantastic feature, future-proofness. Now I know what you're thinking, Note 3, future-proof. You can't be serious. Well, hear me out. The Note 3 is one of the devices from Samsung that is incredibly easy to service. Pop off the back cover, 12 easy screws, and bam, you are in. My Note 3 actually arrived with a dead on arrival charging port. A couple screws, and I swapped it with no problem. This will easily extend its hardware life as it is rudimentary to service and parts are readily available, not to mention durability. This device has a 5.7-inch 1080p Super AMOLED screen coated in Corning's Gorilla Glass 3, which might make it seem less durable than newer iterations of Gorilla Glass, but the Note 3 has a sweet trick up its sleeve. That is a raised bezel around the entire front of the display, which if you look at many of the drop tests, reveals its true level of durability. The only other note with this design is the Note 5. However, the border on it is much thinner and therefore more likely to not save your phone from a hard drop on a rough surface. Not to mention the fact that the display itself is much weaker on the Note 5 due to the lack of side bezels. We would not see a display as strong as this one until the release of the Galaxy Note 7. Fun fact, one of my friends had a Note 3 for many years, no case, and after many long, hard drops and even being ran over, it was destroyed, but it still worked. Amazing. I've also used my Note 3 caseless, and after many drops, not a scratch. But no matter what, even if you don't get a case, please get a screen protector. Screen protectors have saved my phone on many occasions, not just this exact phone, and I have plenty of reviews of them on my channel if you want a quality one to find for your phone. In fact, what killed my original T-Mobile Note 3 back in July of 2016 was the fact that someone hit the screen with a large stick, and the glass wasn't even cracked. However, the display underneath had gone dead because of the impact. The worst part is that despite us having an extended warranty, T-Mobile refused to fix the device. And I tried to replace the screen myself, but I accidentally did a glass-only repair instead of repairing the entire screen because the glass was fine, but the under LCD was messed up, and that's what I needed to replace, but I replaced it, and it just didn't work. Here's an interesting note. I'm in the middle of editing this video, and I just realized that Boogie2988, Francis, in this clip right here that I was using to basically represent how July 2016 was when people were obsessed with the presidential race and Pokemon Go. So I used this clip, and I realized that Francis has the same phone that I do, the Galaxy Note 5. Steven, you've got good taste in phones. Anyways, back to your regularly scheduled review. Next, we'll cover the usability and hardware features of the Note 3. The Note 3 features a very underrated feature when compared to its newer siblings. That would be the leather stitching on the back cover with a faux leather texture all along the back side of the device. It's not real leather, and the metallic notebook style frame is not real metal, it's all plastic, or polycarbonate if you want to get fancy. However, despite the lack of a quote-unquote premium metal feeling that reviewers of latter devices peddle obsessively, the Note 3's design makes it great to hold, and it still has a nice shine when the light catches the bezel. It's unique, it's durable, and it's very grippy. If there was one Note you could definitely use without a case, it would be this one hands down. While the Note 4 brought aluminum to the design, the feel of the stitching and craft of the rails are unmatched by any other device, and I love it. Some may say it doesn't look or feel as nice, but I disagree. Compared to post S8 models, the Verizon logo that I expressed major distaste for is alive and well. However, replacing the back cover with one from a different carrier, color, or even texture allows for an easy way to customize and modify your device, as everything under the back cover is user accessible and replaceable. You can add an SD card to expand the default 32 gigs of storage, a huge battery, and even a wireless charge adapter. The camera design is also OCD friendly, the USB 3.0 port is great for data transfer and still has not been widely superseded, the speaker is okay, capacitive buttons are great when the lights are turned off, earpiece and call quality is fine, home button is mushy and seated poorly on my unit, but it supposedly depends on which variant of the Note 3 you get. The S Pen is actually less fragile and the entire setup is much less prone to issues than the Note 5, but you give up certain features. And finally, the feature that was actually on the Galaxy S6 but removed on the larger variants, then never seen again on Galaxy devices, the legendary IR Blaster. Now let's take a brief intermission with a message to Samsung. Samsung, why? Please bring back the who am I kidding? Let's move on. Previously, I mentioned the camera, so let's dive a bit deeper into the Note 3's camera. 16 and 2 numbers. Great. It's pretty decent. Not a dual lens, no OIS, etc. But for the age, it's not bad. It'll definitely get you by like any mid-range phone, and fun fact, this was my main camera for many of my videos for quite some time, until around August 2016, when mine broke and I swapped it for an LG K10 that was complete garbage. I really wish I had gotten a Note 7 instead, as if I could have afforded it back then. The front camera is also decent, though I personally don't use it for your various chat slaps or Instagram stuzz, whatever they're called. It's much better than nothing. It'll do you just fine. You don't really need the latest things, and if you're even considering the Note 3, I'm sure it'll be just good enough for whatever it is you're trying to do with this camera. Next, we'll cover the Note 3's software. Now, this phone is a legacy Samsung phone. TouchWiz, yes, TouchWiz. Custom ROM people, before you get your pitchforks, hear me out. I've used the Verizon Galaxy Note 3 since April, using the stock software on both Android 4.4.4 KitKat and 5.0 Lollipop. For the record, most of my tests were done on Lollipop, since most people will end up updating their phones if they haven't been updated already. Now, this phone became known for having sections of lag, stuttering, and overall poor performance, but in my experience, the Verizon software is more buggy than the T-Mobile variant, so that's a knock on Verizon, but while the stutters were extremely annoying, they were very infrequent. So the lag issue isn't as common as what would be believed. However, I'll be honest, it's still annoying. The Note 3 of course has the S Pen, which is of course fantastic. It's actually a bit nicer to use than the Note 5's variant, as it's stronger, thicker, easier to hold, and I think it looks nicer in my opinion. No clicky top, so you just pull it straight out of the phone. S-Note and Action Memo are still great, and the pen itself does have very chippable paint on the end, so be careful. It can look pretty ugly after a while. This is the first S Pen to be reversible, and it works much better than the Note 2. Plus, you can't reverse it and risk killing your phone like on the Note 5. There's also other S Pen features that aren't as useful that Samsung baked into this version, like Pen Window, which allows you to basically resize different windows as part of the multitasking abilities. It's cool, but it's not something that's very well supported, especially nowadays, so it's not really something that you're gonna probably end up doing other than just the regular split screen multitasking and the normal windows, which are very useful and they are very nice features to have. And this device, despite only having 3 gigs of RAM and fairly outdated software, even with the newest apps, still handles multitasking like a champ. So do not be worried about it. Keep in mind, the new iPhone XR that just came out has 3 gigs of RAM, so let that speak to how well the RAM is. And I know that doesn't speak as much to real world usage, but in my case of the Note 3, it works very well, and it is fine at keeping stuff in memory. It's good. I mean, it's not as good as my Note 5, of course, which is my daily driver, but it's good. It's fine. It's definitely a step up from the Note 2, and definitely a step up from the Note 1, since those only have 1 and 2 gigs of RAM respectively. And this is pretty much the time when we got to where the Murphy's Law definitely set in when it comes to phones, because all the way up to the Note 7, the RAM increase hasn't really been that much, until you go to the Note 8, where the RAM is doubled, and now you're getting kind of a pretty significant boost when it comes to memory. So, you can always root the Note 3 and install a custom ROM as well that will add and subtract certain features, upgrade your version of Android, add updates, and make the phone run a bit faster if you really want. So if you are really worried about the lag and you're technically inclined, like the people I mentioned in the early part of this clip, then you know what to do with the Note 3. Okay? There's no need to roast the stock software. It's fine. It really is. Granted, it's probably different if I was using it as my daily driver, like meaning with my SIM card in it, but I still use it very extensively for many months, and I still have memories of whenever I use this thing as my daily driver for almost 2 years. So I know what it's like to use this thing. Now granted, 2016 is a little bit different than now, but not by much. 2016 was still in the Note 5 and the Note 7 were still brand new, and they were still top of the line, and performance was fine on those. So the Note 3 performs just fine. I know I keep harping on this, I know this clip has probably overstayed its welcome, but I need to hammer that point home because every phone stutters, and people always complain about TouchWiz lagging. I went off the script in this part. Okay, the script for this software part is done. Now I'm just ranting. The truth is that people get so worked up about Samsung devices lagging and just stuttering. I've owned every Note device except the first one, and I will fix that soon. I've owned the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5, the 7, the 8. Well, I haven't owned the 8, but I've used the 8. And I haven't, all of the Galaxy phones that I've used, I've never once, in my personal experience, seen them lag out to the point where, like, they become unusable or it's actually enough to say that it's a significant knock against the phone. Now, these phones have a heavy software skins. No one's debating that. And as usual, even right now, Samsung is revisioning their TouchWiz skin once again. They have the new One UI that's coming out with supposedly the Galaxy S10. So again, they're constantly trying to redo it. So they had the first TouchWiz with the Note and the S2, and they had the one with the S3, and then with the Note 4, they changed it a little bit. With the Note 5, they changed it a little bit. With the Note 7, they really overhauled it. S8, they kind of added to it. Now they're redoing it again. Samsung is actually making improvements to their newer devices with decreasing the bloat of TouchWiz. And they haven't even called it that for so long, but everyone has just accepted the fact that it's still called TouchWiz for some reason, which is fine. So I have not experienced a significant amount of lag to the point where it's a knock against the Note 3. That's my conclusion. The features are great, and now I'm just going to move on before I waste any more time in this review. Next, we'll talk more about daily endurance and usage. The best feature of these devices is something that I complained about major in my Note 5 review. That is the expandable storage, and more importantly, the removable battery. By default, the Note 3 has 32 gigs of storage and a 3200 mAh battery, but you can expand that to up to hundreds of gigs and tens of thousands of battery life, of milliamps of battery life. The Note 3 also works with larger SIM cards, so if you have a larger SIM card, it'll work great, and if you have an older, or actually a newer nano SIM card, just a little adapter, and boom, you're good, since it does use the older micro SIM standard. You can add a huge battery to the Note 3 without it getting in the way of your built-in charging port, a great feature that is not available in newer devices, Note 4 and Note Edge. That's about it as far as newer devices that support this feature. Also, if your battery is about to explode, swap it out no problem. Your battery is useless, you don't need to spend $30 at the Apple Store for a battery. Just $8 and you swap it yourself. Also, fun fact, the Note 4 actually was recalled, well, not the Note 4 itself, but AT&T actually sent out some refurbished Note 4s a little bit ago, and they had problems where the batteries were exploding. You know what they did? Gave people new batteries. Yeah, Samsung, if you had never switched away from this removable battery mentality and the Note 4 was the one affected, or if the Note 7 had a removable battery just like the Note 4 and the Note 3 did, then you would have been much better off. Trust me. And I think you know this, in all honesty. Samsung really shot themselves in the foot, at least when it comes to that instance, because they had to take the entire phone back, because you can't expect end users to replace a battery on a unibody device. Even one with a easily removable glass back, that's still more steps than the legacy devices. Battery life on this phone is also very good. As an MP3 player, it can last multiple days. And for normal people, using it for normal usage, you can get around 4.5 to about 5.5 hours of screen on time. Judging this compared to what the Note 3 initially got back in 2013 based on reviewers out of the box, this is very similar to what you should expect for the Note 3. So the stock battery, assuming that your battery has good health, you should expect around this range of battery life. If yours is lower, get yourself a new battery. And if you want more than that, get an extended battery. The nice thing about the extended batteries on these older Samsung devices is there's no glass to worry about cracking on the back, and you don't have to worry about dropping your phone and permanently damaging your charging port like you do on every other phone, or it has to fish the battery through the charging port. Not a concern with the Note 3. Apologies for some segments being a little bit louder than others, that's a fault on my part, but I forgot to mention specs. That's pretty important. The Note 3 in the US market features a 2.3 GHz Snapdragon 800 and 4G LTE, whereas the international version has a 1.9 GHz Exynos Octa chip with only 3G capabilities. Both units mostly contain 32 GB of storage by default. There is a 16 GB version that you should avoid, and a 64 GB version that is a lot like a unicorn in that it's very hard to find, but if you can find one, definitely go for it. Every version of the Note 3, at least the major revisions, have 3 GB of RAM, which is fine for today's usage. It gets the job done, definitely. It's probably the bare minimum that I would go as far as a decent phone in 2019. It also has a really nice 1080p 5.7-inch AMOLED screen, which even today still looks gorgeous to look at and to use. You also have Gorilla Glass 3 on the front, notebook-esque metallic chrome on the sides, which is still plastic, and faux leather on the back, which is also kind of plastic. Interesting note is that the faux leather design is slightly different in texture depending on which version of the Note 3 you get. The black one feels a little bit more rubbery and grippy, whereas the white one is a little bit more stiff and plasticky in order to avoid staining. That being said, the black one feels better in my opinion, but even if you get a white Note 3, you can put a black back on it and make it look even better. So you definitely have that option. There's also supposedly like a red version and a few other colors, basically like a white and a black with gold sides, which look really nice. And I believe there's also a pink version as well, but the white and the black standard with the silver sides are going to be the most common. A lot of people talk about the build quality of the Note 3 and kind of bunch it in with the build materials as if it's the same thing. It's not. The build quality on the Note 3 is superb. It's extremely durable, you can't bend it no matter how hard you try, and you can drop it and pretty much be okay, and you really don't have to worry too much about it breaking, even if it lands on the screen. I still recommend getting a case and a screen protector, but nevertheless, the build materials and the build design, quality, and durability are still very good on the Note 3. However, the design is subjective as far as whether you like the materials on the Note 3, so you really won't know for sure unless you hold it for yourself. USB 3, a headphone jack, swappable 3200 mAh battery, SD expansion, and a durable body all lead to a solid phone even in 2019. So, in conclusion, the Note 3 isn't too bad, even in 2019. Granted, with the Note 9 out now, the 5, 7, and 8 are very good deals now. But if you want the classic Samsung features in a unique design and feel with a great screen, good specs, durability, and a price that won't break the bank like every new flagship out now, the Note 3 is still a great choice for the ultra-budget consumer. As long as you can deal with some occasional hiccups along the way, the price of admission makes it all worth it. And good news too, as this is in my opinion the pinnacle of Samsung's design and overall philosophy on how to build a great phone. I also wanted to thank a lot of my friends who basically had some involvement in this process of making this video, mainly Juliet and Logan as well. They were just kind of caught up in some B-roll shots, as well as my friend Michael, who created the soundtrack for this review, the song Reminiscing, which is actually my ringtone because I like the song so much. But anyways, he gave me permission to use that song for this review, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. So we got some nice background noise, and it's a really good song, really electronic, pretty cool. I thought it fit really well with the Note 3 review. Let me know what you guys thought of it. Anyways, this is Intellitech Studios, and for around $100 refurbished, I recommend you pick up the Samsung Galaxy Note 3 in 2019. Like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe, and crack that bell icon for more, and leave a comment on your experiences with the Note 3 or anything else for that matter. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of the Note 3 in 2019. It took me quite a while to make it, as I've been working on this review since April of 2018. Again, this is Intellitech Studios, and I hope you all have a good one. Peace.